Imagine this scenario. You and your biggest competitor are standing in front of a prospect. Your competitor gingerly hands over their business card. You proudly hand over your book. No prizes for guessing who's built instant trust and credibility. If you love the idea of having a book to promote you and your business, then listen up, as today's guest has written 42 of them and sold 9 million copies. It's a self-publishing episode 635 of the 13-year-old award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of By the Book Marketing. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. I do that through weekly in-depth conversations with successful business founders who have walked the path before us and are now willing to share their wisdom. You, infinitely more importantly, well, given the fact that you're here, you're a motivated business owner, ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. As per usual, team, there's marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. If you're a long-time listener, then you'll have heard me say on multiple occasions that a book is a business card on steroids. It positions you, the business owner, as an expert. It's a wonderful way to get that mountain of knowledge you're standing on out of your head and onto paper. Plus, it builds trust and credibility with your prospects and customers. I've experienced this myself with my own book, The Boomerang Effect. Now, whilst the sale of some 7,500 copies didn't make me rich, I'm still proud of that though. It's been responsible for getting me well over 100 keynote speaking gigs over the years. Books can be such an amazing marketing channel. And if you have any limiting beliefs around becoming an author, please put them aside for the duration of this chat with today's special guest. Her name is Kim McCosker. She's the founder of 4 Ingredients and the creator of tens of thousands of recipes, all with 4 ingredients or less. She's also the author of 42 self-published cookbooks, of which she has sold over 9 million copies. Isn't that insane? Off the back of all that, she's got an e-commerce store, a beautifully shot YouTube channel. Don't watch it if you're hungry. Trust me. And she's just released the easiest cooking show ever on Foxtel. That's its actual name. I love it. So pen and paper at the ready, folks, as Kim takes us inside the world of self-publishing. I started off by asking her what made her think that the world needed another cookbook.
When my first child came around in 2002, I was frantically working extraordinarily long days, only one of 2 girls in an office of 16 blokes. You know, it was a pressure cooker, finance, you know, it was funds in investment, funds under management. It was just, and then I'd finish that crazy pressure-loaded day. I'd battle peak hour traffic. I'd go home. I'd pick my young baby up from after school care. We'd race to swimming lessons or whatever it was we were doing extracurricular. Then I'd get home and then, oh my gosh, the dog needs walking, the plants need watering, everyone's starving, got to get a load of washing on, homework has to be done, what's for dinner, and there's my second shift. So I actually went looking at that time for a really easy cookbook because I was desperate. You know, this was Jamie Gordon and Nigella. It was 7 p.m. and they were showing me how to make an asparagus custard. You know, I just needed a recipe book that showed me how to make a bacon and egg pie because they were the ingredients I had in my I couldn't find it. And then, as with all solid entrepreneurial or many solid entrepreneurial ideas, the idea for 4 Ingredients sprung from an absolute need I had at that point in my life. I just sat down and went, right, I can't find what I'm looking for. I'm going to write it, or at least I'm going to just start to create a little document with recipes that resonate with me that I can just pick up, print off, pick up and go, okay, right, I've got these ingredients. I'll make that. And very quickly the recipes I was typing into this, because at this point I didn't have the smart foresight of writing a book called 4 Ingredients. But the recipes I was typing into the manuscript were all based on just 3 or 4 ingredients generally.
I love these businesses that come from a personal problem.
Yeah.
You know, like, and you clearly, well, I love it, the fact that you're what I call a cubicle escapee, someone who is working.
Oh, what does that mean?
You were working for the man in a large corporation and you couldn't wait to escape and start your own business, and you have. And I've interviewed many of that type of person. So at that time, did you realise that you were actually starting a side hustle, starting something that would allow you to escape the cubicle, or were you just trying to solve a problem at home?
I was just trying to solve a problem at home, but as we do at mothers groups, because we women, Timmy, are very good networkers, we would sit there and we would discuss, and we would have these lengthy discussions about what's for dinner, what are you making, what did you put in that puree, what's that biscuit? And then I would tell them I'm working on this project, that I'm just, writing a little sort of document, creating a document of recipes all made with less than 4 ingredients. And every single person, no matter where I was, if I was in the elevator going to work on a day off, if I was, baseline at tennis, sideline at tennis, baseline at soccer, if I was in the mothers group, everyone would say, I need that book. My husband needs that book.
So you kind of very quickly realised that, hang on.
Ooh, there's a market for this.
There's something happening here.
Yeah.
People, everyone, because it can be dangerous. I've often said on this podcast, listening to others can be good, can be bad, because it can completely confuse you, or it can very quickly confirm you're onto something. For you, it was the latter.
Most definitely.
So at what point did you go, hang on, these notes that I'm creating for whatever reason, just so I can make the recipe again, I think there's a business here and I think I'm going to really pursue it and, throw caution to the wind, so to speak. Can you remember that moment?
I think I was at a mother's group one day and this lady said to me, because then the girls started coming with recipes every week. So I started using all my contacts. They were like just fantastic resources of content.
Crowdsourcing.
Oh my gosh, before it was a word. But, and she was a chef nonetheless. And she came and she said, hey, this is, my garlic creamy king prawns. And it was the best selling, meal at our restaurant. And it's just got a few ingredients. And I think at that point I went, you know what? These recipes are so good. They're so solid. I could write a book doing this. And that was probably the breakthrough. And then I'm saying to the girls, do you reckon this could be a book? And they're all like, yeah, of course it could. Your enthusiastic girlfriends, of course you could do that. Go forth. So anyway, that was probably when I got that recipe and I just thought, you know what? I am amazed what you can create with so few ingredients, because at the time, mainstream, it was complex. If you weren't spending hundreds of dollars on a dinner party, what were you doing wrong? If you weren't starting to prepare for Christmas lunch in November, what were you doing wrong? So I just, in the pit of my gut, I felt I was onto something really cool that was very timely for the market 15 years ago.
And there's something beautiful and incredibly simple about the concept of 4 ingredients. If you're about to go and write a book, just say I'm going to write a cookbook and it's going to have entrees, mains and desserts, that's been done before. So back to my original question, what do you think? Why did the world need another cookbook? Clearly because you'd nailed it down to, it was simple, it was a niche, hadn't been done a lot, I don't think, not that I know my cookbook history, bookography, but it's such a simple, and it's a great marketing premise to build from, to sell from. People get it because it's incredibly achievable. What was the first business move you made, Kim, once you realised, I like this idea, I want to write a book? Did you go and look for, because you're totally self-published, but at that point, did you go and look for a publisher, or what did you do?
100%. You have a manuscript, the first thing you do, and I'm from a finance background, I'm not a publishing background or a writer. So I just assumed you would ring the publishers of this fine nation, tell them this amazing idea you've got that everyone you've met throughout the last year of compiling this manuscript has said how fantastic
Like the publisher cares.
And then It was a very rude awakening. It took 3 phone calls to 3 publishers where basically the response was exactly the same, and I knew I would never get a publishing deal. So I would ring, I would introduce myself, my concept, the way it was going to revolutionise a busy kitchen at the end of an extremely busy day before a busy night. And the first thing they would ask me is, are you famous? And like, not only was I not famous, I had no following, I had no culinary background or skill set at all. I was like the antithesis of what was popular at the time. I was a complete contrarian to Jamie, Gordon and Nigella. So it was just never going to work. Without a following, I was never going. And even to this day, Tim, it is still very difficult to get a publishing deal without fame or a following. So if there is someone out there with a great product or story or idea, and you think, as you said at the top of this interview, you've probably got a book in you, start to build your online market, your online following, your platform now, because a potential publisher will want to know who you can market to, how you can market, even probably before the content of your book. They're going to want to know who you can sell it to, how much you can move, and because that's dollars, that equates to dollars. So essentially, when I couldn't get a publishing deal, the only other option is to self-publish. And even though I was distraught at the time that no one had the foresight to see the amazing concept I had in my hands, they did me the greatest service on earth, because then literally at that point I became a self-publisher, which meant I was a self-financier. And at that point, to print 2,000 copies, to get 2,000 copies of our first book, it cost me $26,000 that I had to pull directly from my family's mortgage, which, and remember, my background's in finance, to net 26K from your mortgage, you've got to gross about 34.5. So here I am taking 34,500 gross dollars from my family's savings pond, and that just motivated me. So I had 2,000 cookbooks. The first book, 4 Ingredients, arrive on the 17th of March, 16 years ago, 2007. And I literally, at that point, I stopped being an author and I started being a marketer. Every night I would Google strategies on marketing. Oh, okay, right. Well, what is the first step in a good marketing machine, in a good marketing program or strategy? Because I had no money at this point to get, this is literally, I only knew in 2007 2 people who had Facebook. Remember, Facebook it only came into being in a dormitory in Harvard in 2004. So there was no social media. It was still traditional media back then, and it was through agencies, creative agencies, ad agencies, and they required lots of dollars. I didn't have it. So after having, printed, set up a website and done, to give myself my own distribution platform, I then had to literally go door to door. That is what I did in March 2007. I had 2 little boys by then. I now have 3 beautiful big boys, but there were 2 little boys by then. And I had a double pram. I literally put them in it, took everything you would usually find in the bottom of a pram out and put books there, and literally went door to door. And then what I also did... Door
to door to bookshops?
No, houses. No, bookshops. Hang on,
don't worry about the bookshops. You went door to door like an insurance, like a solar energy salesman?
Yep, because I had 2,000 books, Tim. The whole trade, the experts in the trade told me would never sell. This will never sell. This has a green cover.
I hear you, but that's extraordinary. I mean, how do you choose what street to start on?
My own.
That's a cook. That looks like a street where they cook a lot.
My own street, because because they would come every Friday night and I would cook for them all the recipes in the book. So they were all excited. So I started there, and then I just begged them to buy extra to give to their nieces, nephews, children.
Fantastic.
So it just went. And then what I did, because I knew that this was not a sustainable long-term marketing model, I learnt to write a press release, because a press release is basically your front forward statement about your business, about the benefits of your product that you can send to a chief of staff or an executive producer or an editor or a journalist. And I would then send beautiful pictures. I only had enough money to get a photographer to shoot 4 photos. They were beautiful. So I knew that that would be a job that they didn't have to do or a resource they didn't have to spend money on. So I made it easy for them. And I even published my name and my mobile number because I thought I've got 2,000 books that are never going to sell. And yeah, that press release, and because I am from a finance background, which is all sales, life is sales. And once you get your head around the fact that no matter what business you are in, no matter what product or service you are providing, you are in sales, you start to learn about the art of selling, the art of marketing. You become more fluent with it all. And, the best marketing strategies aren't, it sells the products for them. You don't have to do the hard sell. So my press releases were all about the benefit to the reader, the benefit to the user. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about my 4 ingredients I knew there were so many people out there that were time poor, that were struggling at the end of a busy day to get good food on the table quick. So I talked about the chicken pie with 4 ingredients, the beautiful raspberry flummery with 2 ingredients, the apple crumble with 4 ingredients. And I knew that is what was resonate with the reader or the listener at the time. And that's how and I followed up. I'd send the press release and 2 days later I'd follow up. I'd ring and say, hey, sent this press because, finance, you've got to follow up. You're selling something, you've got to follow up because I'm just one of a million people sending a press release to a journalist hoping they'll put it in print or put it on their radio show. So I know to stand out, I've got to follow up, I've got to ring. I just sent you this press release. It's got a chicken pie, it's got a raspberry flummery, it's going to be, and that's what I did persistently, tenaciously, determinedly for years, still do it today.
Well,
15 years later.
As they say, there's money in the follow-up. So many people don't. They put out the press release or they do, even just, send a quote or they do a job and follow up. Because who knows what will come from the follow-up. It's incredible. Kim, incredible that you went door knocking with your first book. Well done to you. At least the pram became a tax deduction. I just then want to understand, how do you go from 1 to 42? And I don't expect you to and please don't take us through all 42, but...
No.
How you go, okay, well, that was some success. I'm guessing you might have broken even or made a slight loss on the first, but thought, hey, there's something here. How do you then become so prolific? Was it a decision?
So no, not at all. So in the marketing, in the sending of the press releases, I first got onto a radio. It was Spencer Housen. He was in Brisbane ABC. Huge breakfast following. I got onto him. And I, unbeknownst to me, took a big basket of all homemade baked goodies. It was 7 o'clock. He'd been up since 4. He was starving. I'm in a little studio. It's all freshly baked. He's just eating, which literally is giving me the microphone uninterrupted. So
Awesome.
I'm just telling everybody about all these beautiful things you can make with so few ingredients.
No doubt.
It's peak hour traffic. At the time, there used to be a show that led into the 6 o'clock news in Brisbane called Extra. The producer of that was caught in peak hour, rang me and said, would you like to be on TV? And we'll do a segment on this book. I've gone, oh my gosh, I may never be on TV again. Absolutely. So I've gone above and beyond. And this is another thing you've got to do with your product or service. Always do more than what the next person will do to stand out. So they came, I had cooked over 34 things. I had a big, beautiful table, a white linen tablecloth. I had flanked it with red roses.
Good
I
on
had
you.
34 things. And the 2-minute cooking segment, which usually was in the middle of the 15-minute extra show, went to 4 minutes and led into the 6 o'clock news. So then the eyeballs that captured. That then caught the attention of a buyer from Big W, which was in town in Brisbane on a conference, staying at the Sofitel. And they rang my mobile number because it was easy to find because I put it everywhere and said, can I take 2,000 copies?
Hello.
And there was my 2,000 copies. And then once you get into Big W, their Kmart are going, well, Shiva, what do they know we don't know? So then the next 2,000 from Kmart, then Target, then it just snowballed
Kim,
so
is this your
quickly.
first book or your second
Yep.
or it's your
No,
first book?
my first.
Wow.
So this was March, right? We got
So
on.
before you go into a timeline, hang on, forget March.
Yep.
It's really interesting. So what you've done, my book was called The Boomerang Effect, and the boomerang effect is quite simple. It's the more effort you put into your marketing, it returns multiples.
100%.
And it could be more sales, but often it's other magical things. For you, it got you on TV.
Yep.
TV then led you to Big W. Big W then led you to Kmart. I need listeners to understand this, because when you put your head above the trench and create content in the form of a book or a podcast or a YouTube channel or an amazing social media presence, whatever, amazing things are going to happen. And you can't lose faith if they don't happen in the first week or the first month.
No.
You know, sure, cash flow is important. I get all that. But listen to what Kim has done. And you've just rolled the sleeves up. You've over-delivered. You've believed in what you've got when others said, 3 people said no to the Beatles for you, in your case. Incredible. You've just gone, no, this is an idea. I believe in it.
And, no only means no today. So my real cut through came, this is all that little story happened in the first 6 to 8 weeks. The real cut through, and I knew primetime TV was where we had to go. Brisbane Extra was great, but it was Greater Brisbane. I knew we had to get either the Today Show or Sunrise or a Current Affair or Today Tonight, as it used to be, or whatever it was called. So I kept ringing. No. Honestly, I thought the EP of Sunrise was going to take a DVO out against me. I was just so annoying. But I knew that is what we needed for real major cut-throughs. So, because back in those days, Sunrise and the Today Show were getting 500,000 eyeballs, 750,000 eyeballs on their programs each and every morning. So it was about June of the same year where the usual EP was sick. And I just happened to ring. And my friend Tim, I can't remember his name, but let's say it's Tim, he answers the phone. Now, he's just recently divorced, and he is hearing that he can make recipes with just 4 ingredients for these kids that he's now got to cook for every second week.
Perfect.
And he's gone, you know what? I'm going to fly you down here. I'm going to put you up in the Hilton, and we're going to bring you on the Monday of the long weekend, Queen's birthday long weekend in June 2007. And that took our brand awareness. And from zero to hero in literally 4 minutes of prime time, I think it was about June 11, 2007. So that was just huge. But if I did not have the hide of an elephant, if I did not have that persistence, determination and tenacity, which is at the core of every entrepreneur's spirit, I would have given up. I had so many no's for Sunrise. I couldn't, I just can't, but you just have to persevere.
What was pushing you, Kim? Was it the fact that you were dying to escape the corporate cubicle? Was it the fact that you'd spent 35 grand gross on getting your first book to market and you needed it to work? Was it pride and ego? Was it your hubby going, this has got to work? He doesn't want to work anymore. He needs your books. What was actually the underpinning this?
The single primary driver was the fact that my family had given me access to $34,000. And that was it. Nothing else mattered. Okay. And remember, I wasn't at this point, I did not think for an instant I was going to sell all of these books and write and build a whole business on this. All I wanted to do was repay the kindness and the support my family had shown and the belief they had in me. I was selling those books for a profit come hell or high water. I just didn't realise that the way I went about marketing it, the smarts that I got and how I was able to turn my entire PR was not about 4 ingredients. It was about the benefit to the user. If you've got this book, it will save you time and money. It will uncomplicate your busy life at the end of a busy day. These recipes will facilitate getting good food on the table fast at the end. It was all about the benefit to the end user, and I was able to just do that well, I think. And to this day, my whole marketing strategy is about connecting the benefit of my products and my recipes to my audience. And I am my customer, and I have created great relationships with my customers and with other brands that have been able to help me amplify my message, to a much bigger audience than I have myself. So that's another thing. Whatever business you're doing, whatever service or product, if you are struggling, look for partners that can amplify your message. Like I grew up with, for example, a type 1 diabetic brother, and I always wanted to write the world's easiest diabetic cookbook. But there's just no way I could get to who the person is in Diabetes Australia. Each state has their own set of rules and regulations and corporate governance. It was really difficult. 9 months I pushed along until one day I got someone in Melbourne that said, yeah, actually, I think this could work. Fast forward a couple of years, we've written 4 ingredients diabetes. Now, what that does for that book, right, is opens my title up to a database of 5 million people. 1 in 20 Australians is living with diabetes.
It's one of the questions that I know a lot of listeners have, and I get it a lot as a podcaster. How do you keep finding content? How do you keep finding things to talk about? And it becomes very clear when you're in the storm. It's actually very easy. Just like for you, you've written 42 cookbooks, and that's not the end. But, you've found a niche in diabetes. You've found a niche in vegetarian, a niche in vegan.
Gluten-free.
I don't know what other niches.
Celiac.
Gluten-free. Silly. So all of a sudden, it actually becomes incredibly obvious, and you'll never run out of content because, and I don't know whether you found too, but like my listeners now constantly say, hey, how about doing an episode on this? How about doing an episode on that? Are you finding that with your readers that, hey, can you do such and such?
So our biggest request at the moment is for a book about FODMAPs. So if you haven't heard of this, you will. So FODMAP is just an acronym, and it's basically fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polypols. So basically they're sugars that...
Yum!
I know. They're sugars that aren't easily digested in your, small intestine. But this is a real problem. So, and this is the thing, right? When I say before, cannot encourage you all enough to create good relationships with your customers, because they will be your biggest source of inspiration and information.
Yes.
And if you take the time to say, look, what would help you at the moment, they'll tell you, I need a cookbook for a Thermomix. I need a cookbook for a budget. I need a whatever. They'll tell you. FODMAPs is the one we are being requested the most of at the moment. So it's just...
Kim, do you have, sorry to keep interrupting,
No,
but there's so many questions here and so many great learnings. Do you have a process for capturing all the ideas that must come flying your way all the time? Do you just simply have a little notes app on your iPhone, or do you carry a journal, or is it all upstairs in your head? How do you capture all these ideas, and then how do you decide which ones to pursue?
Well, no, they're recurring. So I wrote 4 ingredients. I wrote 4 ingredients too, and then I would do all of these. I didn't know how to sell them. So I just contacted bookstores and said, I'll come and create an event, and just, I'd take taste testings to it. So again, you walk past a bookstore, you're not seeing very many authors, least of all one that's feeding you. So I was always very, very popular because I'd have my cake or my, slice, whatever. So very popular. But at those events, people would say to me, oh, what's gluten-free? See, at that point, I thought gluten was pronounced glutton, of which I am one of those. So I do the research. Remember, my background is in numbers, and I do the research and I go, oh my gosh, 1 in 100 Australians is a celiac. Yet the experts say it's more closer to 1 in 50 that they go undiagnosed. Like numbers, these are huge numbers. So then I rang Celiac Australia and I say, hey, would you be interested in a project where we could write a book together? Because I know they're going to open me up to a database of 3.3 million people.
Wow.
So this is how when I say build your relationship with your customers, build it equally as well with brands that can help amplify your message, because they have great newsletters. They have, people actually pay money to get these newsletters from their websites every month. So they'll, if you can work with someone bigger than you, they'll help amplify your message and your product, and it results in sales. But sales was never, sure, that's really, really important. But the primary thing for me was creating content that helped. If you can do that, and if you can connect that product and a great message that isn't straight selling, but there's benefit to it, sales will automatically come. Sales will come.
Content that helps.
Yeah.
I've got an entire keynote on that. It is. Well, it's not necessarily simple, but it's bloody obvious.
Yeah.
Why not make marketing that helps your customers make a more informed purchase decision, makes them feel smarter, in doing so, they're going to trust you. You're going to build credibility in their minds. They're going to be less price sensitive. I mean, this is sort of, it sounds obvious, right?
Not only that, they will then become your biggest advocate. And that is what you want. You cannot have enough brand advocates or brand ambassadors. And we have just got, oh my gosh, you follow my social media feeds. Like, we have just amassed this following, this 1 million+ following of, like, we're like a foodie family. And there is just such positive energy. Like, if there's a negative energy, I don't even have to say anything because everyone else will come, nah, wrong place for this, take it elsewhere. You know, like, everyone else does it for you. They're just, if you can connect well, you know, yeah, you will also, what you'll do is build a tribe of people that will market your product for you, which is what we've done. And I guess if there is nothing that you take out of this, or if there is one thing you take out of this, start to build your tribe now. Start to build your online social presence. Start to work on ways to increase that without having to pay for it, you know, doing it organically and virally. Because when you can get people to your sites organically, they'll stick. They're sticky. They want it. They found you.
And it's a long game. That is, your advice is sound. But people need to know that is a long game.
Oh, I've been.
You're not going to do a YouTube video today and, you know, hope to get inquiry tomorrow. You're not going to put a podcast episode out today, likewise inquiry tomorrow. But over time, you will. And it's not about quantity. It's about quality. Yep. Just like, hey, if one person saw you on that Today Show or whatever it was, it happened to be the Big W buyer.
I know.
Happy days.
Happy days.
God. And, you know, people might say you were lucky. I don't think you were lucky at all. You created that luck. Now, I love this saying you've got, Kim, which you shared with me when we first met. You said, it's never been easier to publish a book, but it's never been harder to get noticed. And once you do get noticed, you need to manage brand fatigue. Now, I want to break those three things down. We sort of already started, but it's never been easier to publish a book. How easy is it to publish a book?
Very. You write what you want to write, put it into a PDF and upload it to Amazon. You're an author.
Love it.
I'm living proof. Any nutter can write a book.
Okay, so that's an ebook. That's an ebook. Yep. And absolutely, totally valid. You have ebooks and you have
both. I publish both simultaneously.
Cover books. Okay, let me rephrase that. How easy is it to publish a physical book? Still pretty easy. It's essentially like publishing a big brochure in the sense that you've got to get it written, designed, and printed.
Yeah, and you know, you can print on demand these days, so it's not like back, you know, where you had to print 2,000 for economies of scale. You can actually now wait till you get the order, print on demand, and it can ship, you know, to whoever purchases it. So, printing something, publishing something is not. You know, like for example, not talking cookbooks here, I've just worked I live on the beautiful Sunshine Coast, and I've just volunteered my time for 4 years for the council for a UNESCO Biosphere nomination. 4 years, 400-page document, blood, sweat and tears, you know, talks with the First Nations, talks with conservationists, developments, you know, community groups, young and old. It was just such a massive, massive task. We finally get UNESCO nomination and the Sunshine Coast is a biosphere. Well, hip, hip, hooray. I have stood up and I said, I don't think you all realise that is 10% of the role yet to be done. 90% of this role. What is a biosphere if no one knows about it? What is a biosphere if no one understands the benefit of it? 90% of what we've got to do now is about marketing. You know, everything is about marketing. A brain surgeon is in marketing. I raise funds for the National Breast Cancer Foundation. They're in marketing. Everyone is in marketing. And that's what you've got to get your head around as a business owner, no matter what, whether you're selling a cookbook or a cow. You are in marketing.
Okay. What about AI has sort of come along in the last few weeks, really? Yeah. For the masses. Yeah. Any thoughts on where that's going to lead for authors who like to create from scratch without the help of a robot?
Look, you know, it's really interesting and it is here to stay, and it is only going to get better as more and more companies come on with their variations of, you know, ChatGPT. But I went into it as well. You go down a very dark, slippery, deep hole. Like, you can just wallow away for hours. But, you know, I'm like, 4 ingredients recipes. So it pops up this 4 ingredient recipe. I'm like, create a TikTok for it. So it creates this TikTok for it. And it's did a really good job, but it doesn't have my personal flair. It doesn't have my sort of the colour, camera loves colour. I will always have edible flowers or bright vegetables or green herbs. It didn't it created great content, but it wasn't of my culture. So AI is here to stay. Where I think, like the other day, for example, and this I digress a little bit, I have 3 sons and he comes home grade 12 and basically it's just written his English essay on the Crucible.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty good start. He's just like, Mum, I've seen the light. I'm going,
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. The world's changed. In terms of getting a book to market, Kim, tell me about the team. I'm thinking, do you need a ghostwriter? Do you need an editor, a designer, a printer, a spell checker? Who do you need to surround yourself with?
No, you definitely need a team. And there are, again, if you Google, I want to ride a bike, there are people that will mentor you through step by step and introduce you to, everyone along the way that is required. I didn't have that. I couldn't afford that. I didn't have that. So I became very well versed in the process of publishing myself. So much so that when the big publishing deals came along within a year of publishing 4 ingredients, these same ones that wouldn't take my call at the start.
Ah, yes.
Within a year, were sending crates of Moe and business class return flights to Sydney.
No.
But by then, I knew the pie chart and I knew how much it cost for the designer and to print and to freight and to warehouse and to distribute. And then you're only going to give me that. And you're going to keep all of that. I'm like, nah, no deal. So, again, if you are really serious of writing, there are a huge amount of great companies that can walk you through step by step, guide you through it all, because you do need a cookbook is first eaten with the eyes. It does need to look lovely. You do need a designer, to reflect you and your personality, and something that's, my very first cookbook was lime green.
Oh, there she is.
With a red 4 ingredients on it. But ugly. But I went and did my recon at the local bookstores and everything was cafe latte, aubergine, lemon, mint, beautiful. And then you've got a lime green with a big red 4 ingredients. What's going to stand out?
That's
right.
Here's
the thing. You are never going to influence anyone looking like everyone. You've got to stand out. So, even though it was ugly, it was really smart marketing plan. But
very clever. Very clever. You didn't know it at the time, but it was super clever.
No, I didn't know it at the time. But my designer just sent back ideas, and that was the one that we just went, holy Toledo, that stands out. That really stands out. So get yourself a good, smart team because you will need them.
What kind of budget? It's probably an unreasonable question because it's a bit like how long's a piece of string. And, I can't imagine there being a cookbook would be at the higher end of producing a book because you've got to make the dishes, you've got to photograph the dishes, there's lighting, all sorts of stuff versus my book that has no pictures in it, super cheap. I think at the end it was about $4.60 or $4.80 per unit. Might not have even been that. And that's pretty on good quality stock, et cetera, et cetera. Can you make any comment around how much, not cookbook, just a nice basic book?
So black and white.
How much to allow in that?
Black and white internals or one colour. You can do a lot, I've written books with just a one colour interior as well, like an orange, but there's all sorts of different scales of oranges. There are all sorts of different scales of black. So you can add a lot of light and shade just with a one colour, which is much cheaper to print too. So I'm thinking, if you print, say, 500 or 1,000, you're probably going to have to look at that $5 a book. If you're going to go colour, you're going to probably have to double it and look at about 10 to 15. So again, before I decide, I start with who is my market, what can they afford to pay, and I will work back from that. And then I will go and source the people who can get me the best quality at the best price possible so that I do not have to charge my customers more than $25 delivered door to door. So I will again always say every decision I make generally is okay. And even to the point, like my book, I don't want my customer to have to pay more than $5 for postage. And I advertise all free postage because it gives me the heebie-jeebies when I go through this whole process. And then what, postage is $16? The product only costs me $20.
Yeah.
Like, that annoys me. Straight up, I'm annoyed with that product and that process. So I don't want anyone being annoyed with anything. So I factor in the price of postage. But to do that, I had to go and I had to understand, okay, what are the weights? What are the weights I can send to keep my postage costs below a certain amount for my customer? So, but this is where you don't think of this when you write your first book. You don't think of this when you put page counts together, et cetera, and different stock weighs different amounts. So, this is where if you are writing a book and it's a one-off kind of thing, perhaps do it in tandem with an expert who can, if you have a book that is 490 grams versus 505 grams, you're looking at a difference of like $5 to post a 490, $12 to post a 510. You know what I mean? So huge difference to the cost of the customer at the end of it, which $7, I just think, oh my gosh. So little things can make a big, big difference. And this is where I think you benefit from guidance straight up.
You talk about it's never been harder to get noticed. Welcome to the wide world of marketing. And as you say, marketing is everything. Everything is marketing. I love your strategic partnership idea. That's the big idea for me in terms of you're finding a partner who has interest in getting in front of the people that you have access to, and you're interested in getting in front of the people they have access to. Marriage made in heaven. Hopefully they have access to more than you do. And you then work over their mailing list if they give you access to that. You do whatever you can to add value at their end so they do the same at your end. And obviously publicity, sending out press releases. We had recently Joshua Del Pozo, who's the chief of staff of the Today Show on this podcast. Yeah. And he was fantastic. A number of listeners have come back to me and said, because Joshua very kindly gave out his email address on the episode, and he checks it every day, and he was genuine, and a number of my guests have been on TV as a result. You did that in the early days. That's another great play. Social media for you, Kim. Huge. I mean, and like you're the mother of teenagers. I'm the father of, well, I used to be teenagers. I hate social media, but I can understand it from a business point of view. It can be quite effective. What's any particular social media tip that you can share, or do you find it as frustrating as the rest of us?
No, look, social media, I was a very early adopter because I recognised early on I was getting questions from Mary in Ireland because her scones didn't rise, and these were all coming at the start. All we had was a website with an info at 4 ingredients, and it was clunky and there was time differences. So we were very early adopters of back then it was really just Facebook and Twitter. So we got on board those and we recognised them as a bridge to the world for us. That was kind of our voice to the world. This is where we could, in real time, we could answer your questions, we could connect with you, we could share with you. And I have built we have over 1.2 million followers across our various social media platforms, primarily over 810,000 of those on Facebook. But, it hasn't happened overnight. That has been a 15-year journey to get this sticky, loving, loyal band. But, we use our social media platforms to promote our brands and our products, but we do it really subtly. We do it, I'm making something in my kitchen and my kids go, God, Mum, that's so good. And I go, right, okay, I've just made this, everyone. And
cameras out.
And my kids have just said, oh, yeah, they're not particularly pretty pictures, but they're real, they're genuine, they're authentic. Like my husband, we went on a cruise at Christmas and New Year, and he'd come back and he's like, that's it, I'm going on a diet, where's your keto book? I start cooking for him and I start bringing everyone on the journey, and I've just made this beautiful stuffed capsicum and here's my stuffed chicken breast and this is all keto. Fast forward 8 weeks, I post a picture of him with the book and he's lost 13 kilos. Like he has just done... so you bring people...
Send me that book, please.
Yes, must get on that myself, mental note. But, you bring people... I use my social media platforms not to sell to you, but to store it. They are my storytelling vehicle. So I bring you on a journey, whatever journey we are going. Last night, I'm in my trivia team. One of the guys is having a birthday. I make a jelly cake. So I tell everyone, I'm in a trivia team, not particularly brilliant, but we're curious and have a lot of fun. When someone's having a birthday, here's the cake. And it's just, I've literally snapped it on my iPhone, put it up, but it's just went off like a frog in a sock, Timmy. It was so popular.
Love it.
It was just, so I think definitely get your social media platforms, and, Twitter and Facebook are really seamlessly integrated. You post on one, you can share to the other. Then you can upload it to your stories as well. A little goes a very long way across social media. Take the beautiful image, just put the link to the recipe. Here's the recipe for today's most popular recipe. That's your tweet. All this is happening and I have outsourced this roles previously. I have gone to, but what I have found, Tim, is that very few people know your product better than you. Very few people can adopt the way that you like. And I often...
Well, social media has two words in it. The first word's social. You wouldn't send someone to a party on your behalf to have conversations on your behalf with other people.
Yeah.
So why do you do that? Why would you do that virtually? I get this, it's hard to scale social if you're doing it all yourself, but at the same time, if you are passing it on to someone else, make sure that you've got your tone of voice, which is very difficult, or just do less. Kim, I want to move on because one of the other things you do, and I know that many of my listeners have a problem with, is giving away all your IP.
Oh.
On your website alone, I counted 384 recipes that anyone can go to. Go to 4ingredients.com.au right now, and there is 384 ingredients. There's probably more if I looked harder. Most people say, well, why? I know the answer to this, but I'd love to hear your take on it. Why would you give away so much at the expense of selling more books?
Oh, it's so simple. It's so simple. It builds trust. It builds trust. So people aren't going to print 400 pages off my website. They're going to love all those recipes. They're going to love that they're so easy. They're going to love, and what that also does, each of those recipes is a part of a blog. So again, I've written a blog about each of those recipes. Each of those recipes on my website have probably been shared tens of thousands of times over the last, 1.5 decades. So they're all part of a bigger marketing strategy as well. So it's there, it's part of a blog, it's been on a Facebook post. You've got all these people that have rated that recipe for you. So if you scroll down, you'll see all the 5-star ratings, all the comments, I'll tell you my recipes are good. I'll tell you they're going to save you time and money. But here I got 300 people telling you that my air fryer roast pork's the best there is on the market. That is solid third-party endorsement.
Yes.
That is what sells, it sells your product for you. So, and to be honest, Tim, it took me a while to get my head around that too. I was very build my fence. This is mine. I've worked so hard for this. And then I realized the more you give, the more that will come back to you. And, use your beautiful images, use your beautiful stories, storytell, and use it so that people can find you, endorse you, follow you, advocate for you.
Totally agree. It's such a great lesson. And we get so scared about giving it all away, but we don't have to be. Because as you say, primarily it builds trust.
They're not going to print 400 individual pieces. They're going to go, right, well, Shiva, these 3 really resonate with me. Oh, gosh, they're in the same book. Let's get that.
Yeah.
That's how it works. And, people have got to see things 4, 5, 6 times before they go, you know what, I'm actually going to make that purchase decision today. So just be relentless with your marketing. Repetition is your reputation. If I have said once, I've said 2 million times on platforms and stages and interviews everywhere. 4 ingredients will save you time and money in the kitchen. 4 ingredients. So know what your product will do.
Key messaging.
Yeah, know the benefit to the customer and just say it over and over and over again.
Yeah, too often business owners get tired or fatigued with their own talk, their own brands, their own products before anyone else does.
Yeah.
We've got to remember we live with them every day, every hour, every minute, right? Whereas the great unwashed out there, They don't.
They don't.
They don't even care. So it's up to us. How do you manage? Because you've got 42 books and counting, and you've launched a TV show on Foxtel. Brand fatigue. How do you stop people going, oh, please, Kim, enough?
Well, I just found, like, the idea is, like, I wish I was that clever. I could take credit for all these fabulous books and titles and ideas. Like, I didn't even know what keto was. I didn't realise it was a diet that had been developed pre the Second World War for kids with epilepsy. Like, someone just said, oh, it's a diet, Kim. You can eat chorizo, cheese, and have a gin and tonic on. I've gone, oh, that's my diet. So then I start to research it, and I go, this is actually a really cool way to perhaps, and then you learn what keto. So it's just all come about through a really good dialogue I have with my online customers, I was just this morning, my jelly slice last night, I was reading all the comments because you do get so many pearls of wisdom. So I don't have a bot. We have Google searches set up for different things, but there's nothing like reading it yourself and the comments, and people love the interaction. And you said yourself before, Josh from the Today Show, he actually responds to people. Like, that builds trust, it builds engagement, it builds a relationship. That's then they'll tell people, oh my gosh, he actually, we're talking about him, he's not even here, he's unaware of that.
Yeah,
Everyone loves him now as a result of that. So we do the same thing. So I think it's just, I keep coming up with these ideas because I keep having these conversations. There's always new problems and challenges and health issues, and I could write a diet book every day of the year and sell it because the whole lot of us, we all want to lose 3 kilos.
What's the size of your team now, Kim?
So at the moment we have 3 full-time people, and we contract out depending on projects. So I have like a chef that I contract out to. I have a designer that lives in New Zealand now, and he has designed my last 12 books. We're currently working on a book actually for Diabetes Australia. So I have 3 full-time, and then we have contracts with a number of various people.
How fantastic. That's inspiring in itself. Now, you have a show that started on Foxtel. It's called The Easiest Cooking Show Ever. I love it. How did that opportunity come around? Obviously through your books, but...
Yeah, through our books. So actually I have a conversation this afternoon with a company that wants to buy the rights to distribute it internationally because they're like, that is just such a golden... Like, tell people exactly what they're going to get. Write your book, call it 4 ingredients. Don't overthink. Don't make it too complex. Like, just tell people what it is. So, you tune into The Easiest Cooking Show Ever, and that's what you're going to get. So it just all come about. It's just
one of those things.
Yeah, marketing and innovation. That's what grows a business, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're always constantly looking at ways you can evolve and, break into a new market, find new people that, are your tribe. So, we're just chewing the fat one day and we're like, let's make a TV show. Yeah, what a great idea. So who can we surround ourselves to do that? And we'd done commercials with companies previously, so we reached out to some of those production companies, and one of them knew someone who lived locally, so we rang them, got on like a house on fire, and that's just how it all... Again, I was very fortunate in that I was in a position to be able to fund it myself. I didn't have to go looking for sponsorship or investment, so we had created Rain, which was really amazing, and
fantastic.
It was able to be shot on the Sunshine Coast, which is, our home and something, unique as well.
Of all the things that's happened to you since you printed your first cookbook, Kim, and now you've got 42, what's the most wonderful thing that's happened?
I think the most remarkable or memorable would have been selling my first 1 million copies of a cookbook the entire trade said would never, ever sell. That was like, wow. And then realising that if I wanted to because we were getting a lot of overseas interest. How can we buy it? And this is Amazon wasn't a huge thing back then. We knew we had to align ourselves with a publisher in Australia that had ties with the United States of America. So we did that. And then a few years later, I ended up signing a 7-book deal with a big, Avenue of America's publisher in New York as well. And that was another wow moment. That was incredible.
So just to clarify there, are you 100% self-published or are you now a percentage of self-published and then?
So I am 100% self-published in Australia. 100% of every image, every video, every book, every recipe, every bit of content I own myself. But I am a published author in the United States of America, in Canada, in
Awesome.
England. So, and just really because you need the marketing machine behind you over there, because I don't live there. It is not my native. I'm not there all the time like I am here, working the market, working the angles, working the stories, working the TV shows, the radio. It's a different beast over there. So you need help.
Of all the recipes you've put out there, do you know how many recipes you've got out there? Thousands, I'm guessing.
Oh my God, tens
of thousands
in my database.
What's the most popular?
There is one recipe that I would attribute at least 1 million cookbook sales to, and that is the very humble fruit cake. And I say this because when I think of fruitcake originally, word association, fruitcake, I think of my nana who would start making our Christmas fruitcake in November. There would be about 16 ingredients. By December, she was pulling it out every night. She was putting a little cap of sherry over the top of it. She had a rosemary bride sprinkling prayers across it. It was just this work of art. It was just so above my pay grade. I never in a million years thought I would ever conquer a fruitcake, and probably a lot of my generation thought the same. And then here I come with my 3-ingredient fruitcake, Timmy, none of which are added sugar, eggs, butter or cream, and everyone's just, it's mixed dried fruit, which you can buy a packet of for $5.50. 3 cups of tea and 3 cups of self-raising flour.
Love it.
It's so good. It's so good. But that's another really interesting point, right? Know those few things that will connect or resonate and pump them out over and over and over and over and over again, because that individually has sold so many books for me, and people don't even know what the rest of the recipes are in that particular cookbook, and they buy it based on that one.
Kim, you're a superstar. Amazing. I wish you all the luck in the future with the TV show in particular.
Yeah.
If anyone wants a good cookbook, go to 4 Ingredients. That's with the number 4ingredients.com.au, where you will find Kim's blog, lots of freebies, sign up to her mailing list, join her socials and buy a few cookbooks. Well done to you, Kim. Thank you for sharing some great insights on self-publishing.
Anytime. Thanks for taking an interest.
Well, there you go, team. Kim McCosker, 4 Ingredients founder and author of not one, but 42 books. Incredible. Hope you got a lot out of that. If you're feeling inspired and you think you've got a book in you, or you'd love your business to have one, then go back and listen to these 3 episodes. Episode 484 with publisher Lydia McClellan. That was a ripper. Episode 95, all the way back then, with business author Andrew Griffiths. And episode 222 with small business owner Darren Finkelstein, who's made self-publishing a primary marketing channel for his boat business. All great episodes, and you'll find links in the show notes. What caught your attention? I'd love to know. Give the Small Business Big Marketing Hotline a buzz on 0480 015 150 and let us know. I'll play it on an upcoming episode, so be sure to leave your business name for a bit of gratuitous self-promotion. Okay, time for you to take action on what you've learned today, because ideas remain exactly that. They remain ideas without action. If you'd love to support the work I do for small business and want even more of me, marketing ideas, productivity tool reviews, all sorts of goodies, then check out my exclusive business owner membership at patreon.com/marketing podcast, or head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and you will see the Join Now button. Memberships start at a ridiculously low and tax deductible $8.50 a month. In the coming weeks, we meet another chocolatier. We had one on a few weeks ago. We're going to meet another one who's doing great things in a very niche and bespoke market. Plus, we do a deep dive. I'm really looking forward to this one with one of Australia's most prolific and successful bloggers. I love blogging. I think more business owners should be doing it. That's going to be a ripper. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the subscribe button on your favourite podcast app, where you will find 634 more chats with successful business founders. Big thanks to Alex Amster for stitching the marketing gold together, and to in-house rockstar Lockie Doley for making the episode sound beautiful with his music. Most importantly, though, thanks to you for showing up. I respect the fact that you've given me your time, and I hope it was of benefit. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.